6 over the weekend, and I shouldn't try to make changes and multitask. So I kind of got chapter 6 screwed up. I'll straighten it out tomorrow morning and have a new one posted out there tomorrow afternoon. Anyway, that'll take care of chapter 6 and give you, will eliminate some of the questions about the amounts. The second thing, what we're going to do today, we're going to start chapter 7 today. Now, in the process of going through chapter 7, we're going to go through chapter 7 similar to the way we went through chapter 6. I'm going to talk about what the flow is. I'm going to talk about what the issues are as far as accounting. And we'll put that out of the way today. Depending on how far we get, we may get into the downstream side of chapter 6. I don't think we will. We'll probably do the downstream on chapter 6 on Wednesday. And
6 or 7?
Pardon?
6 or 7?
7. So we'll probably do downstream 7 on Wednesday, and we'll do upstream on following Monday. Which brings us to what we're going to do next Wednesday. That means that when we will start chapter 8 next Wednesday, my plan is to do get a look at chapter 8. I'm not sure that we're going to do both upstream and downstream on 8. We will do the transactions. The issue, once we finish chapter 8, we're going to do a couple of, we're going to do at least one multi-dimensional problems that deals with the excess value out of chapter 5, the inventory out of chapter 6, the depreciable assets out of chapter 7, and the constructive retirement of debt out of chapter 8. It sounds like a lot, but it's just, each of these items ends up as an individual line in there. So once you get used to working with it and been through one or two of them, it's a lot easier. Once we've been through that, where we give you a little bit of foundation on a complex problem, we're going to have an exam. I know you're excited, but you're going to have to work. Some of you are not showing excitement on your face. I know that'll get better as the day goes along. All right. Looking at what we have. In this case, we have Peerless and Special. So Peerless acquires an asset on 12/31 of 10. They acquire the asset for $9,000. And we have a period, what we're dealing with, 12/31 of 10, 12/31 of 11, so we have the year of 2011, 2012, 2013. And bought the asset, I got the wrong date on this, had bought the asset 12/31 of '08. We have 12/31. Um, 12/31 of 10, 12/31 of 11, 12/31 of 12. So this would be 2009, 2010, 2011, and lastly 2012. Now, they acquired the asset at this point right here. So this is 12/31/08. On 12/31 of 11, they sell the asset to Special for $7,000. So we had, they bought it here and they sold it at this point. So let's look at what would have happened on the books of Peerless. We have 4 accounts. We have the asset. We have accumulated depreciation. We have, say, cash. And what we'll have is we have the acquisition of 9,000. We give up cash of 9,000. When we get to, by the time we get here, we've had 1, 2, 3 years. So those 3 years, we have accumulated depreciation or depreciation expense. Now, this asset has an estimated life of 10 years. So how much are we gonna depreciate per year? Would be $900. So we have 900 in '09, 900 in 10, 900 in 11. So at the point of sale, we have $2,700 worth of accumulated depreciation. So we look at what our entry would be to record the sale. We have an asset with $9,000, we need to get that off. We have accumulated depreciation of $2,700, so we would have, and they sold it for $7,000. So our proceeds, we would get cash, $7,000. We would have accumulated depreciation of $2,700. We have the asset of $9,000, and we have a gain on the sale of $700. So to record what that would be $9,000 credit to the asset, $2,700 debit to accounts accumulated depreciation. We have $7,000 debit to cash, and gain on sale would be a credit of $700. So this is what our situation would look like on the books of Peerless. At the point in time that we get to right after the sale, or by 1/1 of the next day, which is the beginning of another period, this asset no longer exists on the books of Peerless. Where it resides is on the books of Special. So we have an asset, accumulated depreciation, cash. So the asset would be 7,000, and the cash, we'd have a credit for 7,000, and that's the way the books would look on day one of 2012. But we're not to that yet. We are closing the books on 2011. So at that point in time, we have eliminated all of the accumulated depreciation, we do the asset, and we have a gain on sale of Peerless. On special, we have $7,000 asset. All right, there are some things we cannot generate economic gain for the business unit in doing business with an affiliate. So what we have to do is we've got to be able to show that asset on the books at what we paid for it, which is $9,000. The other thing we have to do is we have to deal with the depreciation, because we need depreciation on the books because we've had it for 3 years. And 3, we need to eliminate the gain. We can't have a gain in doing business with ourselves.
How did you get the 9,000 on the cash on the credit?
This is what they paid for the asset back when they bought it right here. The cash is just an account to make the journal entries balance. So the $9,000 is what they paid, so we reduced cash. When they sold it, they got $7,000, so it increased cash. Cash is not a critical part of this. What we're looking at is the asset, accumulated depreciation, and the gain on sale. Now, when we get ready to close the books on 2011, so we have worksheet entries on 2011. So the worksheet entry on 2011, we look at what's the status. We have the asset, we have accumulated depreciation, we have and we have gain. So what it is, the asset is $7,000. Accumulated depreciation is what? 0. What is the gain? The gain's 7,000. We got 7,000 on the consolidated books.
700?
I'm sorry, 700. Now, what should these items be? What should the asset value be? 9,000. How about accumulated depreciation? What should that be? 2,700. How about the gain? What should that be? 0. So we look at what we take. We need to debit the asset for 2,000. We need to credit accumulated depreciation for 2,700, and we need to debit the gain for $700. So this is our analysis. The entry we need to have is the worksheet entry. for, 2011, our entry would be, we're gonna debit the asset for 2,000. We're going to debit the gain for 700, and we'll credit accumulated depreciation for 2,700. So this is our worksheet entry, the first year. Going to the next year. When we get to the next year, special is gonna record depreciation. How much depreciation are they gonna do? All right, we have to look at the remaining life. This is an asset with 10 years worth of life. 3 years have gone by. How much remaining life do we have? 7 years. 7 years. So how much depreciation do we have? We're going to, how much does special take in this year? They get 1 year's worth. They got 7 years remaining on a $7,000 asset. Their depreciation expense is $1,000, right? I'm making this like pulling teeth. So they have,
Well, I guess 7,000 divided by 7 years that remain, right?
right,
Gotcha.
Is it 100 or 1,000?
It's
1,000. It's 7,000 divided by 7 years. So this would be for the year of 12. So we look at what our situation is for 12. So we have, what is the value of the asset? 7,000. How much accumulated depreciation do we have?
1,000.
We have 1,000. Now, the gain at this point, gain is a temporary account, right? What do we do with temporary accounts? They get closed out, so it has gone into the investment. So we no longer have gain, we now call this investment. Special. And we have $700 in there.
So special will have $700 even though it's a different company that carries the gain? Because Peerless was the one that had the 700.
Okay.
correct?
Here's the deal.
Okay.
What we're looking at is we have $700 that is in Peerless. So it's not in special, but it's in Peerless.
Okay.
All right, we say, what should these be? And before we get to the should be, we've got to look at what our situation is. We've got to make 2 adjustments. One is going to involve the asset, the accumulated depreciation, and the gain, but the other is we have got to adjust depreciation expense. Because at this point, when they took $1,000 and set that up in accumulated depreciation, they also took $1,000 of expense. How much should depreciation expense have been?
The 2,700? Oh, the 10,000 divided by the 10th year. I mean, no, 9,000 divided by 10.
How much should a year's worth of depreciation expense be?
900.
900, who said 900?
Right here, we can do that.
So it should be, it should have been 900, it's 1,000. So we need to make an entry for 2012 that goes in and adjusts, so we would debit accumulated depreciation for $100, and we will credit depreciation expense for $100, and these. So we would have an adjustment here of $100 and a credit to depreciation expense for $100, which is our adjustment of the expense account. And then, so now we're gonna look at what things should be. What should the asset be?
9,000.
9,000. How about accumulated depreciation? What should we have in accumulated depreciation?
3,600.
3,600. We have a winner back here in the corner.
I'll take that note, the notes.
Why is it 3,600? Who said? All right. The first year, the first 3 years, we took $900 a year. If we're talking about dealing with 12, what should we have taken in 12? 900, so we should have this 2,700 plus an additional 900, or it should be $3,600. Okay with that? Come on, you can't shrug it off here. And the other thing is, this should be 0. So if we look at our adjustment, we need to increase the asset by 2,000. We need to, our adjustment to accumulated depreciation, this would be 900. We need to go with 2,700. And our investment is 700. So our entry for 2012, we're gonna debit the asset for 2,000. We're going to debit investment for 700, and we'll credit accumulated depreciation for 2,700.
Okay. Can you explain your accumulated depreciation and your 2,700?
Can I explain?
Yes, because you have 1,000, and then you have 100, then you have 3,600.
All right, here is what we have right now on the books. Because we're going to have to make this, even though this is a worksheet entry, it's gonna be an adjustment. So when that adjustment hits accumulated depreciation, then what accumulated depreciation is for worksheet purposes, $900. What it should be is 3,600. And the way we get to the 3,600 is we have 2,700 for the years 9, 10, and 11, plus another 900 for the 4th year, brings us up to 3,600.
Okay, so how did you get 2,700 again?
How did it get to this?
Adding that straight down.
All right, that's 1,000
Okay.
reduced by 100 is 900.
Mhm.
Subtract out.
So you subtract, I just thought that was credit, not subtract.
Well, okay, I do this for debits and credits. So we're getting differences here, and this is a valid point that you're questioning. What we're doing is, I've got the credits with brackets on them, and debits without brackets. What we're looking at is the difference between the is and the should be's. And the difference here is $2,700. The is $2,700 less than the should be, so we're gonna credit accumulated depreciation for $2,700 to get it up.
Why there was no depreciation for the 2011?
On 2011, and y'all look at this is a great question. The reason there's no depreciation in 2011 is the depreciation was taken prior to the sale. We would have had to make, remember, when we have asset transactions, one of the things we do is we look at what would be the depreciation expense up to that point. So they would have taken depreciation for 2011 on the books of Peerless.
But the sale happened 2011, at the end of 2011.
It happened at the end of 2011.
Why?
So our 2011,
Yeah.
we would have had, right, at this point, we had zero left on the books because we debited accumulated depreciation as a part of the transaction. It needed to be put on, so we put it back on the books when we made this entry right here. Okay? So what we have is we have, in this case, two adjusting entries. This has a single adjusting entry in this year because all of the depreciation expense was acknowledged in Peerless. In 2012, we have the difference, we have two things to account for. One is the difference in depreciation expense, and two, we have the value of the asset and the accumulated depreciation adjustment that needs to be made. So this gets us to 2012. Let's look.
I had a question, please. Why the gain change in 2012 to investment?
Why do we go to investment?
Yeah.
Because this has, at the end of the first, in 2011, there's a gain in a temporary account called gain, and that would be close to retained earnings. So we're dealing with items that are in retained earnings, and we go in and make an adjustment against investment for those.
So for the following years, you just change gains to investment? Or?
It's gain in the first year, but in the second year, it's going to be investment and special.
So what will be in 2013?
I'm glad you asked that. Let's look at what would happen in 2000, because one of the things that happened is, you look back at inventory, we did a deferral of the item, and we came back and realized it the next year. With this, we're going to defer something, and we're going to realize it over the balance of the depreciable, balance of the life of the asset. So we had a gain of $7,000. We're going to spread that over the remaining life. There's 7 years of remaining life, so we will realize $100 a year for the next 7 years. So anyway, let's look at what, this is 2011, 2012, let's look at 2013. 2013, We come down, how much depreciation expense do we have? This isn't a trick question. How much? 1,000. Y'all don't trust me. All right, so we have $1,000 of depreciation. Let's look at where we are. We've got, what's the value of the asset that we have on the books? 7,000. How much accumulated depreciation do we have on the books? 2,000. And we have an investment of 700. We have an investment of 600. So what this is, should be, what should the asset balance of the asset be? 9,000. How much should accumulated depreciation be? How much? 4,500, right? And gain should be 0. Another thing we have, just like in 12, when we get to 2013, we've got accumulated depreciation. We're gonna debit for 100 and depreciation expense. We're going to credit for 100. So we would have 100 and credit of 100. So this would be our depreciation expense adjustment. So now we look at it. We've got 2,000. 100 gives us 1,900, right? So we have 4,500, 1,900, 2,600. So this is 2,600. Our assets 2,000, and our investment is 600. So now our entry is going to be asset 2,000. The investment for 600, and accumulated depreciation 2,600.
So we use 600 for the gain. On the gain, it went from 700 to 600.
We had 700.
So that's about okay. So why you didn't make the change in the first year?
First year, we didn't have any
I'm
depreciation.
saying 2012, once you received the 700 from 2011, you made the expense with the $100 for, wasn't it 600 that year?
Because this is the $100 that's coming off of 700 to give us 600.
Okay, so it's for the fall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't this fun?
Oh, gosh.
But what's going to continue to happen, you go for 13 to 14 to 15, what have we done? 1, 2, 7. It'll go to we're gonna take the last $100, in 19, we're down to 0. So in 19 forward, as long as that asset is on the books, there will be an entry to debit the asset for $2,000 and credit accumulated depreciation for $2,000. Or if at that point in time, the asset is disposed of, it'll be off the books and you won't have the issue. But what's happening is each year, this is dropping. So it went from 700 to 600 to 5, 4, 3, 2, $100 in investment, and it gets to 19, it's 0. You can look at that on Blackboard. I've taken it through all the iterations. If you want to see what's in the book, they take it through there. But basically, when we go in and do our deferral entry, when we do the basic entry, that we have the deferral and the realization, we're going to see that we have in 2012, I'm sorry, in 2011, we will have the deferral of the $700, and then in 2012, we will start the realization. We'll have $100 in 12, $100 in 13, and we'll go forward that way. But each year, we're gonna take the amount, which is the amount of the deferral divided by the remaining life. We'll spread it over the remaining life. See how simple this is? Piece of cake. So, let me let y'all, anybody still writing? All right, what are you going to see on the exam? If you were to see this, it's going, we're gonna tell you, one, the asset is $9,000, Peerless bought it for, they sold it for 7. Or it might be going the other way, from Special to Peerless. Special buys it for 9, sells it to Peerless. That'd be the upstream version. So what you're gonna need to do is, this would be your analysis as to what is happening. So you'd have to go in and figure out how much accumulated depreciation was at the time. But you're gonna have to be able to back in, or generate this initial starting point. And these entries are going to be worksheet entries that we'll pick up when we do the worksheet. There are going to be equity entries around this, and there are also going to be, there's the basic elimination entry and the deferral and the realization within that. So, y'all are getting better at this.
So I have a question. So for the accumulated depreciation, for Peerless, if we get a question like this on a test, we need to tell us how far we're supposed to depreciate it so we'll know.
I'll tell you what the depreciation is. I just didn't write it down. That's the depreciable life is given. And the thing that you need to be able to do with depreciable life is, I'm gonna say the asset's got so much life. You're gonna look at whoever bought it initially and well, there's 1, 2, 3 years that they've taken, so there is only 7 years left. So when he gets over here, it's only got 7 years of life left.
So then I have another great question.
That's why we're here.
So, I don't wanna confuse anyone, but, so, okay, Peerless, they got a game, once they sold it to Special, correct? So in the case of Special, it'll become an investment when you're writing it out in your journal entries? Okay.
Because what we'll do is we'll come back and look at what the investment account is when we do the complete entry, or complete assessment. What I want to do is take you through this to show you what the logic is behind it. And I knew how much thrilled you would be to see this.
Professor, can you tell us how much each part's gonna be on the exam, how many points?
You know, I'll get to that when we do the other. Just trying to remember how I grade this. Did you all spend copious amounts of time this weekend going over the excess value from 5 and the inventory from 6 that I'm gonna go back and change? Inventory from 6 is what I've screwed up, so. It may have been okay. Actually, for the first year, it's okay. I think it's the second year. Picked up the wrong sheet. Anyway, any more questions on this? I don't wanna go on I want us to talk about this until you're sick of, until you understand. I can't imagine you being sick of this. This is just magical. It's not the time to do that. But anyway, we're go back, one of the things that's good about these, you put the timeline together, sometimes it's a little easier to see what's happening. Here they bought it, they bought it at the end of 2008, they bought it so late in the year, there's no depreciation. So the depreciation starts in 2009, we have the first year, second year, third year, end of the third year, they sell it. Since it's the end of the year, they don't have any depreciation in 2011 in Special. If they had gone, year 1, year 2, year 3, instead of selling it on 12/31, if they sold it on 1/1, now all of the depreciation is good, but we would have a depreciation expense entry for 2012. Now we're doing it in 12, so we wouldn't have this entry would be down here. We would have both deferral and realization in the same year. We would have a deferral of the $700, and then we would have realization of the difference in expense, because you'd be taking depreciation in the first year.
This is chapter 7.
Pardon? This is chapter 7. Go ahead. Yes.
What page, is this problem on?
This is the example out of the book. It starts on It starts on 322.
Thank you.
Now, chapter 7 discusses three types of asset issues. The transfer of services or goods. It has one for transfer, and then where we're looking at transfers of assets, they have both depreciable and non-depreciable assets. I took the depreciable assets because I don't wanna make it more complex than it needs to be. If you learn how to do depreciable assets, doing non-depreciable is fairly simple. It takes all the complexity of the depreciation and depreciation expense out of it. Any more questions? All right, here's what we're gonna do. I've got the chapter 7 material out on Blackboard. I'm not gonna go over any more tonight because I wanna pick it up and go all the way through the downstream in one session. I don't wanna start and have to quit in the middle of it and pick it up. So we will, on Wednesday, we will do, the downstream, like what we did in chapter 6, the downstream. We will do the complete model. What I would do between now and, Wednesday, I would continue to look at the excess value and the inventory. Like I said, I will have revision of the inventory